Bases dropped here at SDH in the afternoon on a Thursday, which means one thing. It means that Thursdays with Niko coming up just around the corner. Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports and from the soccer bar hanging out with us. And we will be getting a look at Matchweek 1 in Major League Soccer, previewing Matchweek 2 from the Western perspective and find out what Niko thought about what happened in Matchweek number 1. News came out this afternoon, and I know that this will surprise a lot of you, that Thiago Almada won Goal of the Week in Major League Soccer. It was the free kick winner in the 99th, at 90+9, that got the win over the equalizer from just outside the 18, the rocket that was clocked at 39 miles an hour by our friends at Opta. So it was 1-0, 1-1 at 39 miles an hour, and then the free kick golazo, the last kick of the game past Danielle for the 2-1 win. It was the free kick winner in 90+9. They got Week 1's Goal of the Week award. We will ask what Niko thinks about that and every other thing going on in Major League Soccer coming up in just a little bit. News and notes around Major League Soccer. Bob Bradley announced that Insigne wasn't sure about his status coming into the weekend for the match against Atlanta United, training by himself and off to the side, not training with the squad. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get into week number 2. Goal of the match today goes to Thiago Almada. Sporting Kansas City has acquired defender Dani Rosero from Atletico Junior in Colombia. That happened earlier this afternoon. Primera A side, Atletico Junior, 29-year-old veteran signed through the 25 season with an option for 26. Will occupy an international slot for Sporting Kansas City. Product of Argentine club Arsenal de Sarandí, Rosero has a decade of professional experience in Argentina and his native Colombia, participated in numerous editions of both Libertadores and Sudamericana. In addition to Arsenal and Junior, he had stints at Patriotas Boyacá and Deportivo Cali, 19 goals, 7 assists in 300 games. Second defensive signing after the signing of Robert Castellanos, since Courtney Ford suffered a likely season-ending Achilles injury. Also at the back, Peter Vermes has Fontas, U22 signing Robert Volader, and Super Draft pick Chris Rindolph to choose from in the back line. So that's news out of Sporting Kansas City. CF Montreal, soon to be, hopefully, probably Impact maybe sooner rather than later, perhaps. Signed defender Ousmane Jabang after the Super Draft selection. That happened this week. He was signed through the 23 campaign, option years 24, 25, and 26. The third-round pick, 75th overall in the Super Draft after starting at Mercer University here in the SDH footprint. Last 2 collegiate seasons, 6 goals, 12 assists, 36 matches. Jabang trained with CF Montreal's first team since the beginning of training camp, participating in friendlies, working under new head coach Hernan Losada. James Sands has cut his loan short to Rangers, so he's back with NYC. Chicago Fire signed Greek striker Georgios Koutsias to their U22 initiative, and he arrives from PAOK, same Greek Super League club that Karol Świderski joined MLS from before the beginning of the 22 campaign, occupying a U22 initiative slot under contract through the 26 MLS season, option for 27. He will also take up an international roster position. George Heitz in a release. Georgios is a talented young player with the potential to make an immediate contribution to our front line. At just 19 years old, he has experience in a competitive European league and at the youth international level. Excited to welcome Georgios to Chicago. Coming off a loan spell at Greek side Wolos NPS, scored 5 in 23 matches, didn't score in first 12 first-team games for PAOK, but was prolific on their reserve and U19 squads. And the striker core obviously is going to look a little different. Jean Duran transferred to Aston Villa for $22 million. Chicago picked up Kai Kamara in a trade with CF Montreal. Kasper Shabilko returns. So, interesting pickup for the Chicago Fire. And now, without further ado, we're going to test technology. We're going to go ahead and bring him in. In the production room, I saw you take a sip of the coffee out of the Rave Green. Since it's 10 o'clock in the morning, I imagine it's cup number 2.
You would imagine, right, my friend? Hello, how is everybody doing from a sunny but frigid area of Seattle and its surroundings? Excited to be here. Top, wonderful, exciting. 36 goals out of 13 games. The home team won 9 times, giving you a little bit of sense of that home field advantage. So it was a good one.
Yeah, we'll get into the home field advantage for the Rave Green coming up in just a little bit. But before we get into that, I know this will shock you. Okay. But Thiago Almada's free kick winner at 90+9 is Week 1's goal of the week.
Well, that's odd. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, everything that had to do with that shot, that moment, how precise it was, the amount of pressure. The goalkeeper knows where he's going. I mean, you know where he's going to put it at, and still you have no way to get there. It talks about a player that is dynamic and the best under 22 player, and a talent that will not be in MLS for very, very long, but one that Atlanta should enjoy every time it takes the field.
And at the same time, I think this was, now correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was the first time that Major League Soccer had 2 goals from one individual in competition for goal of the week. And Atlanta United fans were sitting there going, we see what you're doing. You're trying to divide our vote to make sure that somebody like Driussi or the fourth contender would win the St. Louis goal that was scored that would get to goal of the week. Atlanta United fans are like, MLS, we see you. We see what you're doing. You're trying to divide and conquer, but it didn't work. I mean, you're down 1-0 to San Jose. San Jose, they're going to pack it in. We know this. And starting like in the 50th minute, they decided to turn it into CONCACAF o'clock and delay. I feel like Martin the Martian. Delays. You know, you knew that was going to happen. And so you're down 1-0. You're trying to find ways to do it. They're packing it in. And then why do you leave Thiago Almada unmarked on a corner kick late in the match outside the 18? That's my first question for you, which sets up goal number 1.
Yeah, I don't think they were expecting the set piece right in that particular moment. I don't know, in your mind as a defender, thinking that they're going to just put one into the box and either try to get it on a header or just create an opportunity for a foul in the box, a hand. I mean, you're thinking they're just going to put that ball where it's more dangerous, and obviously a little lack of awareness of where Atlanta's best player is at. It happens, sometimes when you're looking from the outside in, that can be easy. But when you're freaking out about giving up a goal that could potentially get just the equalizer, I just think it doesn't go into mind. A great set piece, something that's prepared, obviously, and then just Thiago's ability to create his own space, put it on his foot in the angle he wants it, and this just hitting an absolute banger. And I mean, he was just amazing.
39 miles an hour. That shot, according to our friends at Opta, at 39, that's going to get a speeding ticket in a school zone. That's how hard that thing was hit.
I mean, he hit it with everything he had. And I mean, as soon as he hit the upper pole, man, I mean, you saw that it just hit the ground like it was going to keep bouncing. I mean, it was just all the force in the world. And he didn't have a lot of, like run up to it. It was just like, boom, it was just immediately. But there's that quality talent. But I mean, it is kind of hard a win is a win. But at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to see Atlanta go back to being a little bit with some tendencies of last season and inability to control space and rhythm and the way. I mean, we talked about this last week, John, about how quality and good this San Jose team can be. So it's not just all on Atlanta. I mean, this is a cohesive unit, and I believe Atlanta really. They didn't get lucky, but I think they took advantage of when Carlos Grueso went out, and they kind of lost a little bit of that balance in the midfield. That allowed for Atlanta to just have a lot easier time getting forward and moving the ball. So there's a lot to work on there when it comes to Atlanta. You cannot be this team that has to rely on miraculous goals at the end of a game because you're too good for that. You got too much talent for that.
And let's go to what happened out west with Seattle. There are a couple of teams, and I know that we play cliffhanger and we play red light, yellow light, green light here on Thursdays with Niko. It looks like to me one of the teams that is red light is Colorado after week number 1, after what happened there in Seattle. But it was 3 of the weirdest, flukiest looking goals you could ever see. But I still would put Colorado in the red light category after week number 1.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to judge a team that did have 3 big pieces out, or 3 or 2 big time players. Diego Rubio being one that will be out for a while. I mean, I believe he was under the knife now because of a knee injury. So he is that X factor for Colorado in the front end in terms of just helping create space for the wingers, because Mikey got completely locked down by Nuhu. There was just no push, nobody that would kind of create that sense of danger for them. When they did have the opportunity to get a shot off, they were not finalizing them. They had that shot on post within 2-3 minutes of the game starting, but at the end of the day, I think this team is just lacking some tools. Were they going to be a top team in the West? Probably not, but you think that they'd be fighting for 8th, 9th place in the West. I still think they can do that. I think Fraser's a fantastic coach. They are in a structured team, and I think Seattle, one, played with a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. 2, the ball was just bouncing their way. I mean, a lot of those mistakes, Eber, credit to him for being someone that take advantage of those mistakes, and I think he really knows where to be. He reads the ball, the bounce of the ball, the shot on the ball. He really knows where to put his body on. He gets that opportunity. Jordan Morris as well. I mean, that goal where he kind of gives you that little salmon hop and gets it into the net. Once again, it was kind of a bounce that went his way. So because of that, I think Colorado is still going to be a mid-table squad.
Austin and St. Louis City, SC. Does the result speak more about what St. Louis could be or what Austin needs to try and find? Because no one, and I mean no one, it was one of the biggest dogs on the board. St. Louis City, SC, goes into Austin, goes into Q2, gets the Duke. What did you make of this one? This one was intriguing for a couple of different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it was unexpected, obviously, to be quite frank. You've heard me talk about St. Louis quite poor, and I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to say that they're going to be the worst team in the West. But they did show that they are not as pragmatic, direct, kind of let's kick the ball and just follow up with a bunch of numbers. They created some balance. I thought it was clever. Some of their combinations from midfield up, in which they would kind of pull some of those Austin players that, quite honestly, that midfield looks like it needs some fire under their belly. I mean, they were just so passive the entire game that they just gave St. Louis the opportunity to really get forward. But at the end of the day, St. Louis was the better team all throughout, 60 minutes, maybe 55. So that shows me that at least these players are willing to go to work. It was going to be a whole bunch of laborers in there, just willing to put in the time, the minutes, the work. They're going to exhaust you. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just pressure. It wasn't just none of that. I really do think that they have a sense of how to play. Now, when it comes to Austin, I mean, it's just too many mistakes to win any game. I mean, it was just ridiculous. The mistakes were crazy. I mean, was it Kip Keller, the kid that ended up passing the ball back in
Yeah.
some incredible fashion? I still, find it hard to just gather. So once again, I think this game was very circumstantial. I'm still high on Austin and low on St. Louis, but a win is a win. And now they go and play against a Charlotte team that was very bleak on their home opener. So we'll see how that plays out.
All right. So if in this situation, for folks who haven't had the chance to go into the Wayback Machine and check this out, Kip Keller is in possession of the ball for Austin. Jared Stroud, former teammate like last year, goes to St. Louis City SC in the expansion draft. Stroud is between Kip Keller and Brad Stuver. There and this was looked at like the Zapruder film. I mean, they had folks who were analyzing it frame by frame, but there was one frame that was a screen cap where Jared Stroud has his palms in the air and it looks like he's calling for it. Keller, recognizing the voice, passes it back, but unfortunately it's to Stroud in a different uniform. He puts it past Brad Stuver and it's a goal. If you were Jared Stroud, and this was a question that we asked our folks on SDH earlier in the week. If you're Jared Stroud in that situation, are you calling for the ball from Kip Keller to see what his reaction is going to be?
Oh, that's tough, man. I mean, I guess I would give it a shot, but I just wouldn't think it would work. Now, with that said, since it did, it's kind of on Keller. I mean, all is, there are no rules when it comes to winning the game. There are no rules to a team that, yes, you played for, and actually not that many. He might have played, a couple of games for Austin, quite frankly.
Still, you recognize the voice from practice, and, you recognize it from all those day-to-day activities from last season where Stroud was there. So it's not a voice that's completely and totally foreign from you. I mean, with practice, even if Jared Stroud isn't normally out there playing with Kip Keller, it's a voice that you recognize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see why it worked. I think it's sneaky and dirty, but once again, black arts is part of soccer. So, I mean, if the guy felt like that was going to work, and obviously he did, I haven't seen that frame by frame thing, but quite honestly, if I was Kip Keller, I'm going to, punch him in the nose next time I see him. I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty telling mistake. Nobody's ever gonna forget. He created a loss. I mean, man, that's taking advantage of your boy if you really think about it.
Yeah, and we've had folks that were all across the board with their opinions. I mean, sneaky, dirty, crafty, dark arts, brilliantly evil, I think was how it was phrased by one of our listeners. So, I mean, the opinions on this kind of thing were all over the place this week, and that's why I wanted to ask you as well what you thought about doing something about, all's fair and we got to come out of here with at least a point. And Stroud, there's that. I think it might be one of the. I'll see if I can find it and post it or send it to you somehow. But there is that frame of Jared Stroud, palms raised, flush right on the screen cap, and Keller turns and passes it backward to Jared Stroud. So, I mean, opinions on this have been all over the board this week about would you do it and what happens in the end.
Honestly, I wouldn't do it, man. I think I'm a guy that still has codes when it comes to a lot of stuff. It probably bites me in the behind more than it served me, to be quite honest. The older I get, it seems to be like the least people have codes. But yeah, I don't think I could do it. I don't know if I could live with myself. I get that you're trying to make a name for yourself in your new team and you want to be that guy. But, man, I don't know. When it comes to friendships, man, I hold that solid, man. And if you're going to do that, I mean, it would have been funny if you would have just celebrated with a little Dr. Evil. I mean, that's just mean. It's just mean.
Oh, absolutely. How did Minnesota beat Dallas?
I have no idea. I scratched my head. I watched that game. Dallas just seems to have all the firepower, but no ability to put it behind the net. And Minnesota just being compact in certain parts of the field. Garcia, he was consistent, at least with his runs. He didn't touch the ball a lot. I mean, if you really look at the stats, but at the end of the day, I mean, he was doing a lot of running. He was really getting that Dallas defense to follow him around a lot. And then he gets an opportunity, puts it away, and then they're able to hold on. But it's really hard to understand how a team at home with that much firepower that's supposed to be a contender for, probably taking the West, is able to lose to a team that looked out of sorts at times as well. So I don't think he was brilliant on either side, but at the end of the day, you get a score and you get the 3 points. But it's worrisome if Dallas can drop a game like this. I hope it's just a wake-up call to a very talented team.
Couple of games I want to focus on in the East before we play Matchweek 2's version of Cliffhanger like we always do. How in the hell did DC beat Toronto?
Oh, man, that was another good one. Toronto, injuries, of course. I think Insignia will be out for a while. That's a huge void from a very talented player.
Bernadeschi today, yeah.
What is it?
He trained off to the side today. He was not training with the team. Bradley says he's questionable for the weekend, but my guess is that he's not going to play.
Well, that's at least not a bad news. I mean, at least he's there and he's not in the operating room. I mean, so that's kind of good. But to be quite honest, Toronto's another team that looks a lot like last season when it comes to the middle of the park. There's just no ability to pressure consistently, to take the ball away from the defender. They allow DC to at times get forward so easily. The width was all day long. There were times where even just kind of pushing up a ball but behind that back line of Toronto, and they had a hard time gathering around it. So it's just a lot of the same from last season. Very talented team when it comes to midfield on up, but in the back line, man, it's just not as solid. So it's worrisome, right? I mean, you talked about a team that got a new goalie that was supposed to be, again, one of the contenders in the conference, and they really got outplayed in the end of the game by DC.
Then the other game I wanted to focus on, we mentioned it's more of the same from Philly, but not the best kind of returns that you're getting out of Wilfred Nancy and Columbus, giving up 4 to Philly in the first game of the year.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're talking about the best team on paper in the league. That I feel like that's what we're looking at when we talk about the Philadelphia Union. They clearly know and understand how they play with that identity. They have a absolute wrecking ball in the midfield with a Brujo Martinez that, was winning on the duels, was getting the ball forward adequately. But now they have a little bit of different dimension when it comes to bringing in a guy like Joaquin Torres. I said it here. I thought he was going to be a difference maker when they brought him on. I thought that he didn't get enough play time when he was out west. In Montreal, I'm sorry. So because of that, you see the changes that he did. As soon as he comes onto the field, he gives you a different look than anyone else. The vision, the poise on the ball, the niftiness, and I think he's only going to get better. Carranza, he's just become a goal scorer. He just becomes someone who's going to put it in the back of the net. So it's just scary from a team that was already pretty good, that had all the fundamentals, to now have a couple of X factors offensively that are working so well. Because Carranza was a guy that some of my colleagues didn't believe he was going to be able to keep on what he did last season, that it was just a fluke. It was just something that happened. But when you look at him play the way he did, this could be a new weapon for this Philadelphia team for years to come.
And Carranza has definitely adapted to what Jim Curtin's style is and what his philosophy is when it comes to the day-to-day when you're out there performing for Philadelphia Union. All right, Matchweek.
But Columbus also not the hardest team to score on either.
Yeah.
That's another part that, I was trying to figure out. Aiden Morris was a little bit of a letdown. He's the guy that I've talked about quite often in several programs that I've done as a young player to watch. He did not have his best game in this one. Atanagbe was very simplistic and just even kill, and he cannot be that for Columbus. He has to be at the top of his game for what this Columbus team is going to have to do. They were very narrow. Also, offensively, Cucho, for the discomfort of my fantasy team, just did not get the ball enough. So, yeah, I mean, even the goal with the own goal, I mean, it was just kind of the way you kind of push the ball, you create it, you shoot it, it gets on net. But I really do feel like Wilfred's going to have to go back, reassess, and find out how he can change this up. Because, yes, Philly's a good team, but you got completely outplayed in this one.
All right, time to play cliffhanger like we always do for the second half of Thursdays with Niko. And we run through the games. For those of you who are catching the show for the first time, here's what we do. In time order, as it comes across your television screen with Apple TV+. We go over the games, we go over the juice boxes, and we see what Niko thinks about the games themselves. If he doesn't think anything about a game, I just plow through it and keep talking about the other games on the board. Niko yells, stop. And then we talk about the game on the board that we're talking about. All right, Matchweek 2. I don't think I have to worry too much about this one. 4:30 Eastern time, LAFC at BMO Stadium taking on Portland Timbers. They're a big favorite at a minus 227. Your draw's a plus 383. Portland is a plus 550 on the board at BMO Stadium for the.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one to watch, simply because we haven't seen LAFC. We got the short end of the stick when it came to El Tráfico because of everything that was going on in the weather. So I'm really interested to see what we see from LAFC this season. Portland, Sporting Kansas City, they show you a little bit of what they can do. David Mosquera is a guy that I feel like is going to be a really good player in this league. But Jimmy Chara being out again and someone that has had injury problems, it's difficult for this squad. But I feel like there is a very under radar rivalry between these two teams. So I think it's going to be a fun one to watch. Definitely take the juice boxes on LAFC. They're going to win this one, no doubt.
Couple of 7:30 starts. Atlanta United hosting Toronto FC. Atlanta United a prohibited favorite at a minus 161. Your draw's a plus 345. Toronto FC's a plus 366. I think you and I both sit here and say because of the absence of Insigne and because of the porous defense of Toronto, Atlanta United should be the favorite at a minus 161.
Heavy favorite, but I do want to watch Araujo in this game. And Araujo could be the best, worst, most amazing, frustrating player that the league has ever seen. He seems to do it all right. He's so exciting sometimes when he gets the ball and he gets on trucking, but then he gets to the final line and he just dukes it, or he just hits it wrong, or he just doesn't put it away. So I want to see his bounce back because I'll tell you right now, if he has another bad game, he's going to be a point of concern for Gonzalo Pineda and Atlanta United.
Next on the board, Columbus hosting DC United. This one just screams excitement for me. Columbus is a minus 179. Draws a plus 316. DC's a plus 476. Because of what we saw from DC, I might take DC or the draw in that one just because the numbers are so big.
Yeah, I think the draw on that one. I'm not super excited about watching that game per se.
No.
Nobody might. It's interesting, though. I will say, just a breaking story about Yamil Assad. Not like he's going to be a big difference maker, but I'm very curious of what he'll do in the league. Eventually, when he gets on, he's been training with the team, so maybe he'll get a little bit of time. He was a friend, teammate of Wayne Rooney, so maybe there's a little bit of trust there. But yeah. I'll go with the draw on this one, but not a very exciting game overall.
Philadelphia at DRV PNK to take on Inter Miami. They're the favorite at a plus 112. Inter Miami's a plus 220. Your draw's a plus 262. I think Union get it done. That's just me.
Yeah, I think so. Miami, it's such an up and down team. I thought that the score didn't really tell the whole story of their last game. Alejandro Campana being hurt again. My goodness. I mean, I guess that's why you brought Joseph in, but tough for a very talented player. But yeah, that'll be decent to watch. Union will probably definitely take that one, manage it, make it difficult in the midfield. They'll end up getting it. I'm guessing on a low-scoring game, though. I'll tell you that low-scoring game there in Miami.
No doubt about it. Revs are a minus 159 at home hosting Houston. Houston's a plus 403. Red Bulls, even money at a plus 100 at Red Bull Arena, hosting Nashville. Nashville on the road's a plus 276. Your draw's a plus 240. That's an intriguing number on the Nashville side.
That is an interesting number on the Nashville side. I might take that too. You heard? I mean, Nashville was another team that last week we were talking about going against a New York City FC team that was changing it all up, and it kind of happened. New York created situations because they have the firepower, but once again, there's no chemistry, and you saw so many issues in the final third where somebody will take an extra touch, was waiting on a runner, that runner never came, so he was shooting the ball late, and Nashville is just too structured for you to not have your S together. So that's the reason why they ended up winning the game. So against Nashville, this game's probably be interesting, New York, Nashville, but I'll probably take Nashville on the road.
Orlando City, the purple team, hosting FC Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati, get this. FC Cincinnati on the road, a plus 258. Your draw's a plus 244, and the composite purple team's a plus 104. Interesting numbers there in this one, knowing what we anticipate or expect now from Oscar Pareja and the purple team. Interesting numbers, though, on the Cincy side.
I do. Those are interesting, especially for a Cincinnati team that I think could have scored more goals in their first game, and Orlando team that was a little bit of a letdown for me, at least. Ojeda did not get in the ball as much, and Angulo wasn't as sharp as I thought he was going to be. I mean, I really do believe there's a couple of injuries down there as well. So yeah, that's going to be a very interesting one. But Cincinnati, I like these road teams, man. I mean, this is flipping my whole home team initial start to this show, man. What are you doing to me?
I know. Hey, it's just how it's laying out. I cannot take the credit for this. 8:30 Eastern starts. Austin at home gets another chance to get full points at Q2, hosting CF Montreal. Probably maybe impact sooner rather than later, perhaps. Austin's a plus 106. Draws a plus 258. CF Montreal's a plus 243. Austin's got to get it done this time, don't they?
We'll see, man. No Cascante is going to be interesting. I still don't totally love the Jesse Sardis project there. I think he's very different to what they were getting last season. I don't know. I wouldn't put any money on this one. Both teams are a letdown in week one. Yes, of course, the Russi is fantastic. He's going to be unbelievable. But Montreal and Losada, they're just a different type of animal that you just had against St. Louis. They might just completely take all service and frustrate the Russi and allow other players to try to win it for you. So, yeah, I don't think I would mess with this game particularly, to be quite honest. Just too many variables on it.
Speaking of too many variables, the Fire at home are a plus 147 hosting NYC. Draws a plus 248. NYC's a plus 173. I think the juice boxers have kind of thrown up their hands and are telling you to go someplace else.
I would. I absolutely would. I don't know what to get from either squad. Just don't play with it. The only thing I'll say about this New York City FC team, Thales Magno, not a striker, not someone that you're going to want to get all your goals from up top. Figure it out, New York City. Santiago Rodriguez is flying in this afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I got a call. So obviously, Santiago Rodriguez, I believe, is going to be a guy that's going to amplify the talent of this team because there's no generator anymore. Right. I think he's going to take on that Maxi type of role with a more dynamic play, of course, because he is quality. He can be a goal scorer. So watch out. I think Santi definitely ups this team, but I'm not high on New York City this year. I'll say it over again. I just think they're in for a difficult season.
Dallas hosting LAG. Dallas is a plus 117 at home. Galaxy's a plus 2.25, and your draw's a plus 240. Once again, interesting notes on the road team heading to Dallas, who laid an egg in Matchweek 1 against Minnesota United.
Absolutely. That's a tough one. I might have to stick with the home team on this one just because FC Dallas is a team that blows a game and then completely just goes and wins a 4-0 game on the next one. I feel like the adjustments are there for this squad. I mean, if they don't win this one, that's really going to be something that we're going to have to talk about next week.
Yeah.
This LA Galaxy team obviously didn't get to play. I still question their ability to replicate some of those offensive numbers they had last season. No Javier Chicharito Hernandez. How they're going to kind of deal with that? Is Ricky going to be able to have as much of an impact now that there's tape on him? As you know, John, sometimes when you come into a league and you take it by storm, people start planning for you, and what there is breaking you down with a whole bunch of hack-a-shacks or whatever. They're going to make life difficult. Can he adapt? We'll see in this game.
4 more to go. St. Louis City SC at 8:30 hosting Charlotte. St. Louis City is actually the favorite at a plus 150. Draws a plus 247. Charlotte's a plus 173. I could go for the home team here.
Yeah, I think so. Momentum is a big thing in this league. At home, big expectation on the crowd. You're coming in from a very good game. Your team is feeling good. And on the other hand, Charlotte just kind of put up a stinker on their first one. So can you value that? Yeah, I wouldn't mind going with the home team on this one.
Colorado hosting Sporting Kansas City out in the middle of nowhere in Commerce City. Colorado's even money plus 100. Sporting, get this, Sporting is a dog at a plus 250 going up against Colorado, considering what happened with the Rapids in week 1. I got to go with the dog in that one.
Yeah, I might go with the dog on it as well, but it's one that I wouldn't really touch. I'm not very high on Kansas City either, other than I talked about Danny Rosero also is another breaking news that I had this week, a guy that might help that back line that definitely needs some big help, so it's going to be interesting. He's a Colombian center back, 29 years old, very physical, but hear this. There is some concerns about off-the-field issues, and I never like to hear that coming into MLS. Sometimes when you get a guy here, start getting a certain amount of money out broad, it could be difficult. So if he can stay disciplined, if he cannot get into any sort of issues and play, he might be interesting. But, yeah, I wouldn't touch this one at all.
San Jose's a favorite at home at a minus 106 as Vancouver visits at 10:30 Eastern. We finish on your game, Seattle hosting RSL. Sounders are a minus 135. RSL is a plus 350. Your draw is a plus 287.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna take San Jose, the home team on the last one. Vancouver was poor at home. They honestly were. It was a little bit of a snoozer. If it wasn't because I had a really good cup of whiskey, I might have not fully got through that game. But San Jose, man, again, they show me a lot. Espinosa's so relentless and insistive and decisive with the ball. I thought that Cowell moved well. He just didn't put the ball behind the back. Obviously, that midfield with Yul and Gresso, I thought played very well. So because of that, I think that's a no-brainer with San Jose. And when it comes to Seattle RSL, man, that's a game that is always difficult for Seattle. RSL seems to be that rock in the shoe that you cannot get off. You trying to figure out where it is. You take your shoe off, you shake it, and it's still there. That's what RSL has been for this team. Like Severino, like that midfield as well. So I don't know, man. I think this one could be interesting. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about putting money. I think Seattle still takes it, but I don't know if I'm as confident enough to put any into that game.
I think it's a tight match. I think the under is probably the play here for RSL and Seattle. What's going on with the Pulso Sports and Soccer Bar?
All right. Well, Soccer Bar, we just had a very interesting roundtable with Arch Bell and Jonathan Tarnowald. Really appreciate their insight. We talked all things MLS. They talked about it. Jonathan talked about he doesn't believe Philadelphia is going to win it this year, which is very interesting. I feel like it's their MLS championship or bust. Obviously, they have CONCACAF Champions League to worry about, so go check it out. Very interesting. Arch Bell talked about Austin FC, that let down, obviously, in that first game against San Luis. John Rojas talked about Portland, talked about all things MLS, so check it out in English for you guys this time. So check it out. Soccer Bar and Pulso Sport. It was a combination effort there. So it's on both channels. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
El Rolo and W, Thursdays with Niko on a Thursday. My friend, you are heading toward the lunch hour, so go get some lunch. Enjoy your second cup of coffee. Go answer your phone, and we'll catch up with you again next week. Thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
Once again, El Rolo and W on the Twitters, at Sports Pulso, at The Soccer Bar on all the Twitters, and we'll be back again next week for Thursdays with Niko. For everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jared, for Nick, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. Enjoy your matches this weekend. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this.